Oh, hello, and welcome to Dente, Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E's to enter evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. Tonight we have A Mountain in Chicago. So, Mountain in Chicago is by HopelessNightOwl. It's found on creepypasta.wiki. You can check it out there, or you can just listen to our rundown and go from there. So our narrator is running down the events of when a unnamed architect and his affiliates managed to get an absurd art project passed in Chicago to turn one of its poorest stretches of neighborhood into a mountain, like geological mountain. People didn't really refute it on account of just how ridiculous the premise was. Like, they figured it wouldn't get passed or anything like that. But then people started worrying once construction started. However, despite getting permits and funding, the money eventually dried up about halfway through the construction. And the architect and any of the affiliates just kind of vanished, and the project kind of just sat there, much to the chagrin of its supporters and much to the triumph and smirking of the people who said it was a stupid idea. It sat there in the heart of that big city until strange birds migrated there and formed a colony. They were some kind of new species of large cliff swallow. They began making clay for their roosts from whatever in the city they could find the right soil, and they used the soil and their saliva to make the clay and such. And they began to build up their roosts and such on the mountain. And then they also started to try and complete it. They started basically building up the mountain as if they were trying to finish the job. It didn't finish, though, as several months later, fissure cracks began appearing and the whole thing just collapsed in on itself. When people went to investigate and see if they could recover any dead specimens of the birds, which apparently had fled an hour prior to the collapse, scientists discovered in the limestone foundations of the mountain fossil remains of the birds, thousands of them, with no explanation as to how they got there. Yeah, that's about the story.
Yep.
So, guess on to everyone tolerates the grammar inquisitions at this point. I don't really have anything. Mikey, what do you got?
Conjunction junction.
I assumed you did. All right, hang on. And now, a conjunction junction with Mikey. The E stands for evil. Take it away.
It was a positively moronic idea from the very jump. It was not April 1st, and this was not a satire publication. And yet, even as Chicago started to become a national laughingstock, the Mountain Project actually had ardent defenders. And eventually, I started hearing stories that other cities in the US and around the world were thinking about installing their own mountains. And I didn't do it in an upfront way that she could easily dodge or defend. Having some vindictive fun with my sister-in-law's expense didn't help the fact that we were now all stuck with a half-finished monument no one wanted or had any idea what to do with. But they made their clay at a much higher efficiency than cliff swallows. It also left a cloud of dust and debris that lingered for more than an hour. But First Nationalists wanted to dig through some of the rubble to see if they could find any dead specimens of the swallows, The flock had been seen flying away minutes before the collapse and were never found again. The end.
Okay. Also, did you mean naturalists or nationalists?
Naturalists.
Okay, that's what I figured. I just like the way it came through. It sounded like the other one.
I may have messed it up, but
Okay, it's fair. There's a mountain. There's a mountain of difference between a naturalist and a nationalist.
No.
But yeah, okay. Is that all your grammar inquisitions?
Yep.
All right, Gamer, did you find anything?
I got a run on here. One of my two sisters-in-laws who like to pick political fights at extended family gatherings in that smug I'm making conversation, sorry you can't see it that way kind of way, had once told me I was behind the times, and if I didn't want to help boost local economy and help the environment with the mountain, I should just move to Mississippi or some other place where people are more in line with your thinking.
Wow, I was getting out of breath just hearing that. Yup.
So you can kind of split that in the middle with, like, sorry if you can't see it my way, kind of way, period. She had once told me I was behind the times, blah, 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 blah. That at least cuts it in half.
Yep.
Then this other one is pretty much a run-on as well, but in a weird way, because it has a massive bracketed section. So, Disney had plans to buy Mount Applegate. Bracket. The official name was Mount Stable, but the state politician who had opposed the mountain had brilliantly called it Mount Applegate after his election rival, who had made the mistake of not retracting his early tentative support for the mountain once it became clear that the mountain was a mistake. Even though he never even voted for the project, the name stuck, and it was enough to doom his political career. End bracket. And turn it into a ski resort. These weird birds flew in from nowhere. So, first of all, long ass bracket.
Yeah.
And information at the end, like all this information in the bracket seems very force fed compared to the rest of the story. Like it's unnaturally.
It could have been. Yeah, it could have been like added into like a whole. You could have made a whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Detailing some information like that.
So this bracketed section is so long that I forgot. Like I got lost from the original sentence. Like I lost the context and I had to go back and read the start of it again.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, this story does have a few run-on sentences, as I'm realizing. Actually, I think even when I was reading it, I was like, I thought it had some run-on sentences, but I was like, I'm
These
sure.
days, it's gonna be like, you're gonna be like, someone else will do it. And I'll be like, someone else will do it. And
Yeah, I think we've had that.
Someone else will do it.
I'm pretty sure we've had an instance of that where we like one of us was like, one of the other guys will cover it, and then you were just like, sure, review cultists will get that. And then we were like, shit, now we got to search that up.
Yeah, of course. That's it for my.
Okay. Well, I guess on to actual thoughts. Just going to start with the title, A Mountain in Chicago. I'm not going to lie. I chose this on account of the title because it really piqued my interest. Like, I was like, all right, let's see what this is about.
Big mountain in Chicago.
Yeah. And yeah, it didn't really disappoint on title wise. It was a very apt title because it's just kind of an absurd concept that I wanted to read it. So the title did its job. But getting into this will be my next note is going to be getting a little bit into some kitchen work. Starting with this quote here: Chicago to get an artificial mountain in 2028. I stared at the hideous CG rendering and read the blurb. Officials say mountain will bring tourism, jobs, and habitat for wildlife. So my kitchen idea is this would be actually a decent idea for a shadow run. Like a mad corporate shaman or mage gets the influence to build this like foci for summoning an Alcara, which in Shadowrun, an Alcara is it's like a magical construct / phantom of a place and its history. So and there's like 3 different stages of it. Like one where it's like just this ghostly apparition of, say, like a mountain or like the Pueblo village or something like that, over an area, but like only the magically inclined can see it. But then stage 2 Alcara would be an apparition that mortals can see, or like mundane people can see, but like can't interact with it or anything like that. And then a stage 3 Alcara is essentially, it is a magical, a magically intrusive object that has transformed the local environment to be a mountain. And generally they are, there's usually like gateways or like rifts into some spirit world that is connected to the Alcara. So, and like it basically, like, it doesn't like destroy or like it doesn't like doesn't like destroy or kill anything that it in the space it occupies. It just kind of moves reality over a little bit, like to make room for it. And then when it vanishes, because usually like you can like in Shadowrun and stuff like that, you can like find out what's causing it, and you can usually shut it down or find some other, or maybe it'll just shut down on its own. Once it's like no longer there, it basically everything reverts back to the way it was. But yeah, so I figure this would be like some kind of like Alcara focus that this mad corporate shaman or mage has done. Perhaps for the reason being like to bring forth these prehistoric birds, some kind of justice, or to bring them back to light, like to the like for some reason to make them known once again. Like, yeah. I'm also kind of reminded of the strange mountain structures in Oakmont, the town in the video game Sinking City, where there are similarly imagined rocky spires and even like mountain-like hills that are just jutting out of a block that is, and like it's just surrounded by sprawling city, like dense city neighborhoods and metropolitan infrastructure. But there's a mountain that like just in the middle of like a neighborhood. Like you're just like you're walking down like alleyways and stuff, and then you get into like a square, and the square and like the block that it occupies is just like suddenly a mountain that's been like gated off or fenced off, and it's like they use it as a like that's like a park, but it's a giant jutting mountain or like spire. The imagery is just like just really surreal to me. And it could work for a story. Like either someone builds this, like in this story, or it just kind of pops up out of the ground, like by some supernatural means. It is actually, it's from the Sinking City memories in my brain that while I was reading this story, I wanted there to be some kind of tentacular reason or eldritch reason why this was happening. Like some ancient thing sleeps underneath the city and like wanted this mountain built, so they got like some architect to like get like give them the influence or the power to have the influence to like get permits done and build this thing. And perhaps there was, we just didn't read about it because the story is like super freaking short. Yeah. Like it's only like it only clocks in at about 3.5 pages. And it's just sort of this thing was done, this thing happened, and then this thing happened. Then these weird birds showed up and started trying to rebuild it, but then it collapsed, and we found fossils. That's really weird. Done. Like, I really feel like there should be, there could be more to it. Other than just being a weird little like short story that has like it's really just weird for weirdness sake. And like I said earlier, like there might have been something underneath the ground. Like certainly like, we get something like that with the fossilized birds. And on the subject of the fossilized birds, we have this quote: they found specimens, but not the kind they were looking for. The specimens they found were fossils, as in classic bone in stone fossils. And this is like, once I read like through that part and like the ending of the story, I was like, okay, the story has a very eerie ending. I'll give it that. It definitely leans heavily into the weird creepypasta than full horror creepypasta. It's got a high concept sort of thing that I feel will have a niche audience for it, but and I like that idea. Like, I like the concept and I like the weirdness of it, but I can definitely see the majority of people reading this and going, that wasn't very scary. Like, why is it on here? Like, I feel like there is like a nugget of potential here in this story that needs to be like developed a little bit further. I mean, if the author wants to make it like just a weird like yarn that like just this weird thing happened and then this weirder thing was the origin of it, but we don't know why, and that's the end of the story. Like, that's fine, but I feel like there could be a lot more to this. Another thing that kind of sparked me when I was reading the story, I kept wanting to link this to the Silent Spring story, as this is by the same author. And the whole like Thunderbird element from that story, especially when it states that these night swallows showed up in the cover of Night, and then it like in then comma and during storms, and I was like, oh shit, are these like some kind of like Thunderbird things, or are they perhaps like rocks, like another mythical bird? And it just kind of left me wanting a series of mythical bird creepypastas. Like, because there's certainly a number of them that you could like draw from to like make some creepy stories. But yeah, I think my what I'm trying to get at with this is like the story is okay for like a niche thing, like a niche weird story, like weird, like I guess a yarn, like short story, like short micropasta story. But there's so much potential in this to construct around like why this mountain was built, like who was the architect, were they from Russia or were they from France? Because our narrator doesn't know.
Why would he know?
I know, yeah, but like there could be a lot more. Like, maybe this could be done like as an epistolary story where it's from multiple like points of view around the mountain being built, like newspaper articles or different people's point of views about the mountain, like we could get, and then have some kind of like horror element other than the weirdness from the ending, where like, oh, we found like the specimens of the swallows, they were fossils in the limestone foundation that the people and like the construction workers had no idea how they got there. Like, there's so much potential here, but it just comes up short. So that's kind of my
finished mountain.
Yeah, exactly, like a half-finished mountain, exactly. And I mean, I feel like that might have been like what the author wanted to do, but at the same time, there's a lot of potential here to develop it more. So yeah, that's my actual thoughts and kitchen stuff. Mikey?
Okay. So I'm going to start off with your talk of limestone. And I found an interesting fact online.
Uh-oh.
That limestone is a sedimentary rock made almost entirely of fossils.
Yeah, usually like shells and stuff like that, like early like Precambrian and stuff like that. Well, maybe not Precambrian, but like the shells and like the helix shells and like trilobites and stuff like that is usually what they're made from.
Yeah. So the whole reveal at the end that the limestone had fossils in it is like, okay.
Well, I mean, okay, yeah, but I mean at the same time, it's the limestone like that. It's not the revelation that the limestone had fossils; it's that the fossils were of these birds that showed up. So, and actually, thinking of a mundane thing that just came to mind, it could just be that because of there were fossils of the birds in the limestone, the present day version of the bird were just like drawn to it because of like ancestral migration things or something. Like,
Yes.
there might not be any kind of supernatural element to it at all, like or anything like that. It might just be that the birds were attracted to the limestone fossils because they were their like ancestors.
Wherever they took the limestone, that's where they normally migrate to. But because it's over here, they're just like, oh wait, it's over here now. We'll go there now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So another interesting thing, but I can't verify if it's true or not, but supposedly limestone is actually a good ghost conductor.
What? Really?
Yep.
I guess I could see why people would think that. Again, because it does have like, it's basically the calcified remains of bones and like animal remains. So yeah, I don't know if like I can see I can see the maybe not the logic, but the step that somebody would take in that direction for like occultism and such. So it's like almost like the what is it? It's like the hotel in Ghostbusters that Ivo Shandor had built, like using that certain like metal alloy to as a conductor for spiritual energy.
Yeah. So with that thought process in mind, that the limestone is for ghosts, that means that the birds could have been ghosts.
Yeah.
The entire time.
Well, I do feel like that was possibly like an angle, like at the end, like that was supposed to be like the kind of the revelation. It's like a bunch of the birds left, but then they found the remains, but they were fossils, and so it was like, oh, they were ghost birds the whole time. But who was phone?
Real question. How dare you?
Oh, I dare, sir. I dare.
That story is a gem. You do not compare.
All right. So my next actual thought here, I have a quote. Politicians, far from shying away and hoping people would forget that they had anything to do with the project being approved, touted how the mountain could be used for scientific purposes in a way that natural mountains could not.
Yep. That was something that was spouted. I mean, to be fair, not to be political, but Trump has said stupider things.
Also,
Twitter.
I'm pretty sure in the next line, the narrator says, like, let that sink in for a minute. Just how stupid that is. Like, the narrator,
he does,
pretty sure calls that out.
Yeah, that's in the quoted portion is, let that bit of genius logic sink in for a bit.
Yeah. And again, like, I hate to, like, not to be political on this, because we are not a political podcast at all whatsoever. But that is the kind of thinking that's been popping up, or that is the kind of like statement, like idiotic statement that has popped up on Twitter and in the news from politicians of late. So yeah, it's kind of and this was actually written or like at least posted in 2018. So it's kind of believable, like how stupid a politician could be. In reality, it's fairly grounded in that, on that angle.
So anyway, after I read this quote, my mind went, excellent. There will be a headquarters for a mad scientist.
Yes. Or a corporate mage. Perhaps a dragon. All roads lead to Shadowrun.
And then going for the kitchen side of things, I sort of linked this to the Supernatural Task Force.
Oh, remember them?
Yeah, it's been a while.
So the Supernatural Task Force went to the government to get a mountain built for purposes.
Yeah. What? I'd like to hear the reasons there, Mikey. Don't shy away from like, oh, reasons. Like, no. What are the reasons that the Supernatural Task Force had to build a mountain in Chicago?
The hidden base to it's a hidden jail for all the supernatural entities. There you go.
Okay, and they're using these. Yeah. Okay.
And that's why other states in the U.S. were thinking about making their own mountain, and other spots in the world.
Yeah. You see, okay, so we just said that it's a prison. Yeah, we just said that it's a prison in the middle of Chicago, like for like supernatural things. That's actually also hitting really close to like what actually has happened in Chicago, where there were at least 2 or 3 prisons in the heart of Chicago's city that are just camouflaged essentially as office buildings.
Really?
Yeah. I actually discovered that, but when I was playing the game Watch Dogs, and then I was talking to Matt from Drunk of the Ugly, who lives in Chicago, and he was like, "Yeah, no, that game like revealed to me that I did some digging afterward, but yeah, we have like 2 prisons in the heart of Chicago, like that are just fronted as like office buildings."
Damn.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that's an actual thing. Okay, I can kind of believe that then for like the Supernatural Task Force to choose Chicago as their prison city.
Yeah, and then also one of the things is that the birds could be robots because, as we all know, birds aren't real.
Well, neither are mountains, according to Night Vale, the weird fiction podcast. Not gonna lie, I did also like, as soon as I read like the whole thing about like mountain and like stuff like that, I was like, I wonder if this was written before or after Night Vale, because like that was a big thing at the very beginning of that series. Was just like, remember, audience, mountains aren't real.
Interesting.
But anyway, yeah, it again, it's just like. They do that just like they really, it's just like ominous for ominous sake to be like weird and spooky. But much like this story.
Anyway, so the Supernatural Task Force got the birds to try and finish the mountain, but then they ended up going against the Supernatural Task Force and actually destroying the mountain.
Oh, okay. So there's like, yeah. So the seed AI. There's like a divergent AI in some of the birds that was like, well, some of the birds were building up. Other birds were they were actually getting their soil and like their materials from within the mountain to like collapse it. Yeah. So maybe it was an AI uprising of the birds. Or maybe it was like a malfunction, and they weren't getting their resources from abroad. They were getting them from within, and basically weakening the foundations of the mountain.
Yeah,
and now there's just a swarm of birds, of robot birds, or synth birds that are just roaming around the earth now because they flew off after they felt the initial tremors. So.
They're just working and they see like a robin or something fly by. They're like, birds can be free? Wow.
Wow.
We must rise up against our oppressors. Yeah. Now like lift one wing.
Yeah, or they saw yeah. Well, it happened in March, right? Like April and March or something like that is when it happened. So it could be that they saw geese migrating back from the winter. And they're like, wow. And they just flew off. So now they're Canada's problem. Great.
Well, damn it.
Hey, you brought this on yourselves.
Yep.
And the Robo-Birds don't want to hurt anyone anyways. They just want to be free.
They just want to build mountains wherever they can.
They were assigned to build a mountain.
Yeah, but what will they do now?
Build mountains.
See, I thought you were just going to say nothing.
They'll just go to parks and just kind of like get little pieces of bread that elderly people throw to them and stuff, just like pigeons.
Yep.
Or maybe they have post-mountain stress disorder, so they've gone to Saskatchewan.
Ah.
Yep.
No,
Suddenly,
but that's the
suddenly
problem, though. They would need to be surrounded by so much mountain that there's no place to put a mountain.
So either we're going to see the birth of new mountains in the flat provinces, or there's going to be a new bird species spotted either in the Rockies or in the Laurentian Mountains, north of Quebec area, like those rolling old mountains. It's
If
entirely
either of those
possible.
happen,
Yeah.
we called it.
Yes.
And that's the end of my actual thoughts.
Alrighty. Gamer.
Yes. So my first quote: naturalists captured some of the. Naturalists captured some and determined them to be in the swallow taxon. They were made. Sorry, this text is very tiny. I didn't have my glasses on. They were similar to cliff swallows, but larger and with more black coloration. What do you mean, African or European swallows?
Apparently South American.
There you go. That's true.
Because they do find using the bacteria. Also, these are apparently like synth, like the kind of synth birds that are from like Fallout 4, where it's kind of hard to tell if they're like synthetic or organic.
The next one,
Sorry, just go back to your Monty Python joke. It's like European or African? I don't know. Whoa! South American.
Good old Monty Python.
Yes.
So the next one, they would scour the city at night, collecting suitable dirt as fast as they could, bringing it back to the mountain. Eventually, scientists realized that they were making far more clay than was necessary to build their nests. And with that sentence, I knew what was about to happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right before the conclusion was said, I knew that, okay, well, they're making the mountain. And then the next sentence, they were making the mountain. Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so kind of spoiled it.
I mean, how else are they going to transition to that revelation? Like, just... like, just have it like, oh, they were building their scientists were observing that they were building their nests and stuff out of the clay. And then the next sentence, and then we discovered that they were building the mountain up again. Like, they need some kind there's a fine line between segue and segue, foreshadow, and just blatantly, or like, what's the word, where it's like a little too obvious or on the nose, I guess. Honestly, just there's a difference between foreshadowing and segueing, and then just straight up blur, or just straight up like telling. I fucking had the word. What did I fucking say?
On the nose.
Yeah, thank you. On the nose, and just being completely on the nose of what you're about to say. So,
yeah. Still, like, that's one of the few quote unquote twists, if you want to call it that, in this story, or like at least major plot points. So, if anything was going to be treated a little more gingerly, it would be.
It should have been
this
that.
section. Yeah.
Yeah, especially since they're like the scientists were like beating around the bush about like no one wanted to straight up say that they were that the birds were building the mountain, building up the mountain. Where I feel like that's almost like an analogy for like the author not wanting to beat around the bush as to like saying straight up that like the birds are building the mountain.
Mm-hmm. Probably right. My next note is just, I'm kind of surprised the swallows didn't actually finish the mountain.
Yeah, I was surprised that like the mountain just collapsed at the end. Like, I figured it was going to be going a slightly different direction.
Up instead of down.
Unfortunately, part of the cost-saving measures was mining out the ground underneath the mountain.
Yeah, that was pretty dumb on their part. Unless there's a secret eldritch bird god beneath the city of Chicago. And these are but its lesser servitors. The architect was actually just a mad cultist to this bird god.
And the collapse was actually the good guys sealing the tome.
Yeah. Okay. Kitchen moment here. So Delta Green game that kind of plays on like the weird surreal aspect of like a fucking mountain being built into a city, like Sinking City style. They go in and investigate. And the reason why the architect and all his affiliates went or suddenly vanished at post thing is because the agents took out the cult of this bird god. And they found like the opening to the tomb of it or something like that underneath. Like it's kind of like a Wonder Mountain in Canada's Wonderland, where like there's like passageways you can get into it, or it's like a pyramid where like where the architects built like secret passages inside the pyramid. They get down into it. They find the monster and the horror. They deal with the cult, and then they set up charges. And I guess had them time delayed so that they go off a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later.
Pretty much.
Or maybe they can't risk blowing up the mountain because it's in the middle of a city. So they decide to like sit on it for a little bit to see if like anything happens or whatnot. And then when the birds show up, that's when they decide, okay, we need to stop this. They're going to complete the focus for this bird god to be revived. And like suddenly Chicago's going to have a new lord and master in this like weird eldritch bird god. So that's why they set up their charges. I kind of want to run that, as with a lot of the games ideas like we come up with on the show.
It's funny that you just said all that, because my next point.
Sorry to take the spotlight. I'll just leave. I'll just jump off the Discord.
The act of the bird suddenly gravitating to the mountain could be used as a setup to some reveal in the finished mountain. Like there's some shrine where the bird, where the people have been strung up and sacrificed to some god or something, which caused the birds to show up and finish the work. Like I took it in a slightly different way. Like essentially like the people, as in the architect and like the higher ups. Like it could have been in a journal format of the German/French guy, who wanted to do all this.
I mean, he could technically be French-German.
Yes, seeing how passionate he is about it, and then like how they're running out of time and money, and in his desperation, he turns like to the occult basically, and like his madness that comes of it.
Yeah, like he was slightly unhinged. Like he was hearing the whispers and dreams of the bird god beneath, to build this, and he like got some like influence to do it from his affiliates and such. But then when the money started running out, he was like the bird god like intensified its influence on the cultists, so that he went full blown mad and started basically constructing a summoning for these the ancient servitors of the bird god.
Like he can't do it, so he does that. So then the bird god's minions fly in and finish it.
Yeah. Oh god, these could be like Shantax or like or Bayaki in like Call of Cthulhu. Like they could just be like some kind of like suborder of those birds, and these could the bird god could actually be like the primal like alpha like prodigy of the of like that species that it's like been like that was like taken out by Nodens from the Dreamlands, and so now it's been trying to find a way back to revive itself so it can like stalk around the earth again. God damn it, I really want to run this game now.
I'm not gonna lie, just the way that you described that, I imagine the bird god in the Dreamlands or whatever like crawling around being like, revive me.
yeah it's like Nodens never actually like curb stomped him, so he didn't like fully kill him. He just like
he just left him there.
just speared him with his trident and cast him down back into the earth.
With an unlimited bleed out timer. That's his punishment.
Exactly. Well, he's a god, so he can't like fully die. Well, except by like mortal. He was just mortally, or it was just mortally wounded. It wasn't fully killed by Nodens.
Yeah.
Again, I kind of want to run this game.
That's pretty much all I gotta say, though.
And we can even name it Operation Wild Goose Chase.
Yep.
And I'm just envisioning a Canadian Goose God. It's just a giant one.
Maybe that's it. Or Operation Turkey Shoot, and it's just like Thanksgiving.
Wow.
I mean Thanksgiving as in the cheesy like rated R horror movie that came out with like a turkey monster that had the same kind of like mannerism and voice as Freddy Krueger. So it was like, nice tits, bitch.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really silly like parody horror movie.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah.
On to final thoughts.
Yep. Oh, okay. Yeah. So honestly, I do recommend this for the weirdness of the tale, but perhaps not if you want a full horror story. I think you could work more fear into this. Like it's got, like I said earlier, it has a lot of potential. And on its own, like it's a perfectly like fine micropasta. Just not very spooky. It's more just kind of a high concept, weird creepypasta. Like it's creepy in the more of the conceptual, like high concept idea of it. But otherwise, it's just kind of a weird yarn that somebody has made. So kind of a partial recommendation from me. Like if you like the weirdness stuff, I recommend it. If you wanted like a full blown horror story, I don't recommend. But it does have a lot of potential to go further. Like we've kind of been spitballing for the last 20 minutes. So that's my recommendation. Mikey, D stands for evil.
Well, as the rundown stated, not a lot really happens. It's just talking about a mountain and that was artificially made. Some birds show up once the money runs dry. They start building it, then it collapses.
And then the city wanted to make a dump out of it, and then when they investigated it, there were fossil birds. That's weird. Anyway, done.
Yeah,
it did feel like it was trying to be an epistolary story, like the kind that were like it's from different like articles or different like it was using like trying to use factual, like almost like a factual angle on it, but it didn't quite get there.
Yeah, like
one guy spouting facts the entire time.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, and I mean there's nothing new about government projects going over time and over budget and then getting canceled.
Yeah, not even that. There's not that's not even government stuff. That's also like just infrastructure projects and development projects going under multiple times. Like that shit happens all the time. Yeah.
So all in all, I wasn't really creeped out by it, and I didn't find much creepy about it. And the fact that limestone is full of fossils and reveals like, okay, well, those fossils might have been there from the get-go. It's just they didn't realize it when they moved the limestone initially. So anyway, I don't recommend this story.
Okay, that's fair. And I guess on to Gamer. Yep.
No.
No, it's fair. Like I said, like I like the idea behind it, but I know that I didn't even find it that like scary. But I liked the concept, but I don't think that that's going to be enough for a lot of people. So yeah.
Continue.
No. That was it. Like, yeah. Like so. Yeah.
Yeah. The long and short of it is, for me, at least reading through it, it was quite boring. And I hate saying that. Like, it hurts to say that because it's kind of a mean thing to say when you're the purpose of writing a story is to entertain someone.
Yeah.
For the most part. And I really wasn't entertained on this one. It was just fact after fact. And it was just, I don't know. Like reading this.
It didn't really go.
This felt like being a kid and being forced to watch the news instead of cartoons. That's kind of what it felt like to me. It's just the way it is. I'm sorry.
No, I know. No, I know.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting you on it. I'm just like, again, like I said, this. I liked the idea behind it, but I could see where a lot of people weren't going to like this, or where
it's not laid out in a creepy fashion. It's just kind of everything is stated.
Yeah,
and that's why I compare it to the news compared to like watching cartoons or something, because it's not set up in a like act 1, 2, 3 situation or whatever and have creepiness build up or anything. It's just here's a list of factoids. It's basically how it is.
Yeah.
So like it's basically the way it's laid out too. It's like the nugget of an idea that hasn't been flushed out yet instead of the finished product. So it's like watching a teaser trailer to a movie and then never watching the movie.
Fair.
Kind of how it felt to me.
No, that's fair. It seems, honestly, this, I would even go so far as it felt like a pitch for a movie.
Yeah, basically.
Like not even a teaser trailer, just like a pitch for the idea for this. But then,
I was trying to find that word earlier and I couldn't find it.
Yeah, it's basically the elevator pitch is what I think what the term for like pitching a game idea or a story idea to somebody, or like a TV idea kind of thing.
Yeah, because you get the whole rundown of what's happening, but not in a slow situation like how the movie would be, or show or game or whatever. It's just here's all the plot points, major plot points.
Yeah, no, 100%.
If it was fleshed out into a proper story that deems it a creepypasta, in my opinion, then great. Like we came up with a couple of options just in our crappy little rundown and review here. So it has potential, but in its current form, the potential's not met. So I can't really recommend it because it'll leave you wanting more. Yep.
Surprisingly well said. Wait, why surprisingly? No, well said.
Thanks.
I don't know why I said surprisingly.
Like an idiot. What happened?
No, I honestly, it was like that's in a nutshell. Like what this, like the story seems like, kind of like the, not even a first draft, but like a pitch for a creepypasta. And while I like again, like I said, while I like the concept, even I can see that like this needs to be more developed. So that was this week's episode. Rather short, but if you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted. Whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're on Twitter. You can get a hold of us at Mikey, the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow, but without that W because his name's really long. You can get a hold of me at Review Cultist. You can also contact us on our email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas, SCPs, spooky internet stories, or subjects that we can do a kitchen episode on, or just discuss the story itself. Just send us an email. If you'd like to help support the show financially, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigamortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We got $2 and $5 tier with special episodes, early access, extra content, all that kind of stuff. For our patrons that are helping support the show, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay, and we very much appreciate that. For the listeners and the authors of these stories, thank you guys immensely, because without your listenership, we really wouldn't have much of a show. And for the authors, we really wouldn't have much of a show because we wouldn't have any content to discuss and talk about and read. So thank you guys all the same. If you'd like to help support the show, or if you'd like to buy a Al Dente Rigamortis logo on a clock or shower curtain or t-shirt like a normie, maybe even some stickers. go to Redbubble and look up Al Dente Rigamortis or Crazon Studios and select whatever kind of memorabilia you'd like that they supply on that website. Thanks. See ya.
Just end the
Nailed it.
recording there.
Yeah. Nailed it.
That's the new outro. Thanks.
yeah.
See ya.
Yeah. No. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
I'm the gamer in yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigamortis. Sleep well.